Our next speaker is Laura Dean Mooney. She knows firsthand how impaired driving can wreck lives. Her husband, Mike, was killed by a drunk driver in 1991, and she spends her time and energy fighting to end impaired driving, and she's been doing that ever since. She's the former national president of Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and she currently coordinates Texas A&M Watch Your Back program. So, Laura, come on up.
Well, I have really, really good news. What's the good news? I'm the next to the last speaker. I have really, really bad news. I'm the next to the last speaker. A lot of the things that I was going to share with you have already been talked about today, but I think there's some things that I can talk to you about that you haven't heard, and if I am accomplishing what I need to accomplish, I might actually finish in less than my now 23-minute allotted time. As was mentioned by Terry, my life did change in the blink of an eye. There is a picture of my late husband, Mike Dean, and our baby girl, Tara. Mike was only 32 years young. The death of Harris County Sheriff's Officer this week really hit me. The exact same age as my husband, leaving behind a 10-year-old son. My husband left behind an 8-month-old baby girl. That baby girl is now 23 years old, and I hope she has left the hotel room upstairs because she is a recruiter for Texas A&M at Galveston, and she's going down to Judson High School tonight, I believe, to try to get more Aggies to come to Texas A&M at Galveston. But as I said, that happened in a blink of an eye. The stories that you heard from Sean and from Carl about losing his daughter, I could tell you hundreds of stories like that. I'm not going to, don't be alarmed. But in my course of doing this for over 20 years, and of course my work with Matt as national president, I heard from victim survivors, whether they were bereaved or injured, for many, many years, and their stories are just as impactful as Sean's or Carl's or mine. It's lives completely changed because of a choice made by someone else, or it's lives that were forever impacted because someone hurt themselves or they hurt another passenger or a friend or an innocent person. Mike was driving from Chickasha, Oklahoma to Boyd, Texas. Anybody here from Wise County or Fort Worth? You know where Boyd is? Yes, it's about this big. But he had worked for Southern Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company, had done a training there, and was driving back because he was driving his mom's big Ford Crown Victoria that he had borrowed from her. We were living in Aurora, Colorado, right outside of Denver, and I'd had lunch with him on that Tuesday of that week at the airport, and then he got on an airplane, went to Chickasha, did his training, and I did talk to him every day. That Thursday, November 21st, 1991, 23 years ago this month, I didn't hear from him that night. What we later found out is Mike left Chickasha, drove to Fort Worth instead of going straight to Boyd because he wanted to eat at Joe T. Garcia's restaurant, because when you live in Colorado, you can't get good Mexican food. So he went there. It was ultimately a fatal choice, not by his fault. Certainly he had no alcohol in his system. But when he left downtown Fort Worth on 287 northbound to Boyd, a drunk driver coming back from his deer lease after drinking a bottle of Jim Beam whiskey decided he would drive the wrong way on Highway 287 southbound in Mike's northbound lane. That drunk driver was going 83 miles an hour, and he was what I describe as fully loaded. He was driving at a .34 BAC. Now, I want you to raise your hand if you think that you learned to drive at a .34 the first time you ever do that. He had probably done it hundreds of times before. So was he a repeat offender? Yeah. But had he ever been caught? No. He was caught the night that he killed Mike and himself. Yes, he was one of those rare drunk drivers that actually dies. Driving the wrong way, driving 83 miles an hour, and not belted. A combined crash speed of about 135. It's not survivable, even though Mike had his seatbelt on. But That left me, a young widow, with that little baby girl, and it caused me to turn my passion into my purpose in life, and that's why I continue to do this. And as we go through, I hope I can share with you something towards the end of my presentation that I think we all need to think about. So Mike was 32 years young. This is what we're left with, a headstone at the Boyd Cemetery. Mike was an only child. Our daughter is an only child as well. Am I a little overprotective? Yes. Did I have the flash flood warning talk with her when I went up to the hotel room a little while ago? Yes. Did she remind me she's 23? Of course she did. But it changes your life, as we all know. Those of you who have been impacted in this room, and those of you who work in enforcement, who work in trauma services, who work in other areas of this related field, we know what drunk drivers do. We've heard the stories today. We've heard things about what we can do to help change that situation. Jeff Reeves is a constable in Brazos County. He was sitting back there on the back row behind me, and he was laughing at me because he said, "You like quotes, don't you?" Because I was writing down a bunch of quotes. And also, I just need to add this. Today is Jeff Reeves' birthday, so let's say happy birthday to Jeff Reeves back there, spending his birthday with us. One of the quotes I really enjoyed this morning was from John Borton. Has he already gone? Okay, yeah. He said, "It's impossible to equate the emotional cost of a DWI crash." Nothing needs to be said beyond that, because what he said is exactly right. This is what you get. This is the emotional cost of a DWI crash. Well, I want to ask you, why should you care about impaired driving? Why should you? I mean, there's plenty of other types of work we can be in, correct? But not to kill you with statistics, because I don't believe in death by PowerPoint. But look at those numbers. Those are TxDOT numbers from Chris. It doesn't matter if you live in rural Texas or if you live in an urban area. Look how close those two numbers are for DWI fatals from 2013. Serious injury, yes, there was more in the urban areas than in the rural areas, but it doesn't matter, because wherever you live in Texas, DWI is a serious threat. I believe that because I know, having been impacted by a domestic terrorist called a drunk driver that killed my husband. So it's a serious threat that we need to continually talk about, continually work on. Well, they asked me to tell you some of the things that we do on our current grant. We are a sub-grantee. We are the AgriLife Watch Your Back program at Texas A&M, and we have some tools that we use that are very helpful for reaching people, sharing the message about what drunk drivers can do and how to prevent that kind of crash or tragedy from happening in your life. We have the drunk driving prevention simulators made by the DWI Pod Company. We have 3 of those. And how many of you in this room have used or seen our simulators? A bunch of y'all, over half. That's awesome. We're real proud of those, and we're really working to collaborate with others on the use of those simulators. I was thinking about the use of those within the last week, and it also reflects on our collaboration and partnership with law enforcement. We had the simulator in Grand Prairie on a loan. We will loan them to certain groups under threat of your life if you don't bring every piece of it back to us, and with instruction on how to operate it. Grand Prairie PD had it for a week. We had another one that was loaned to Montgomery County for their Crime Stoppers. We picked that up. We took that straight to Houston last Friday, did a program, and then the Houston Police Department picked it up from us and borrowed it that night for a program there. So it's a very educational tool. Teaches people they have to wear the impaired driving goggles, put those on. We give them an educational, very, very short educational message before they get in our simulator. Otherwise, we have wasted our time. It's just a video game. Big screen TV, pedal set, chair back, that kind of thing. For those of you who have not seen it, I encourage you to look at our website and contact us if you want to see about borrowing one of those simulators as well. We also have pedal cars, a pedal car, same kind of concept, put the goggles on, get into the car, pedal through a series of cones. Again, the educational piece, if we don't tell them this, Hitting a cone is like hitting a person. If you clip the cone, that's the equivalent of serious bodily injury, if convicted 2 to 10 years. If you plow that cone down, which many of them do, think about that being your next door neighbor you just killed. Think about going to jail, spending 2 to 20 years for that. Again, the impaired driving goggles are used. A couple of different brands that we use there. We also show a few videos. We have found very good reaction to Happy Hour Fail and to one other that y'all do that I forgot. I can't remember what the other one is. But anyway, the TechStop videos that we have shown have been received very well. We also do talk about alcohol poisoning. I know that's not traffic safety related, but we feel it's very important for young people especially to understand, because we've told them all their lives, what? Don't drink and drive, don't drink and drive. I think somebody was saying that, Nicole. But have we told them not to get in the car with a drunk driver? Probably not as much as we should. Have we told them that consuming a lot of alcohol in a binge setting can kill them? We need to tell them more often about that, and we do. Real life stories. We share my personal stories sometimes. We share stories about alcohol poisoning, and I'll show you that in just a moment. We also, talking about interlocks, I spent a lot of time with promotion of interlock legislation as Mad National President in probably about 30 states. Carl will verify that. That's what the National President of MAD talks about everywhere he or she goes, trying to get legislatures to adopt that. We were fortunate enough to collaborate with Smart Start and get interlocks from them, and we actually show those to people. You would be surprised, or maybe you wouldn't in this crowd. People have never seen interlock. They don't know what it is. They think it's something completely different. So we've done promotional programs where we educate folks about interlocks. We also continue our partnership. We're very, very fortunate to have a built-in system of dissemination, and that is the county extension agents in 250 of the 254 counties. So we tap into them quite a bit to try to be able to get our message out. They will get us into a school, for instance. We also work with TSSs. Every TSS in this room, I think, maybe not, but close, have had us there to do programs. This particular shot is from Carol Campa in Austin when she had a DWI project graduation event and asked us to bring our simulator to go along with what she was talking with about preparing for project graduation events and teaching those young people. Actually, they taught us quite a bit because they did a phenomenal presentation. We work with local law enforcement quite a bit, not only in doing the simulator loaning, we also partner with them when we go to an area. We try to get in touch with them and ask them to join us to do mock SFSTs or whatever the case may be. But we want to make sure we get that point to these schools. That is something that's a leap behind is, look, you're trooper from your area or your deputy sheriff or your police officer from your area helped us out with this. They're going to be here after we leave. They know you've been taught about these things already. Make good choices so you don't have to see this officer again. We also created a DWI Law Enforcement Advisory Group. One of our members is here today, and we work very closely to try to get DWI officers, street-level officers primarily, prosecutors, and MAD and our local TSS involved in this group. It's been quite successful. We just celebrated our 2nd-year anniversary, and it's becoming more of a regional concept that was discussed to try to reach out to surrounding counties. We meet bi-monthly, and we discuss trends, we discuss issues. We do a media event annually as well. Working with coalitions is something that we've heard about all day, collaboration, partnership. We try to do that too. For instance, last week we were in Brownsville with the Healthy Communities of Brownsville. We've partnered with East Texas Community on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, and just the list goes on and on and on. But what we found is it does take all of us, and it does take reaching out to those other folks and asking them either to join you there, or they find out about us, they ask us to join them, so that, again, we show a strong united front, whether we're talking to adults or to young people. There's just one picture of our former chief, Jeff Capps, speaking at our law enforcement advisory committee event that we had to kick off Chili Fest, which is this big thing near College Station that's really beer fest, but they can't call it that, I guess. I actually subjected myself to attending that event as a middle-aged adult. Never again. Never. Yeah, Jim Kavobiak's laughing. Terry's in the back room. She's been there. Bobby's been there. Several of us. It's, it's just a mess. I think that's one we're going to, if the chief was here, I'd say, we'll get that to San Antonio. It seems like that's the dumping ground for all these wonderful events. Maybe they'll take that as well. But we do collaborate with law enforcement as much as we can. That bottom picture is collaborating with Aware Awake Alive. Unfortunately, is anyone here from Aware Awake Alive? Out of Austin? No. If you don't know about them, they're a wonderful, wonderful group to work with. They are responsible for the 9/11 Lifeline law. That is the law that was passed implemented in 2011 by the Texas legislature. It was Senator Kirk Watson's bill. It was named after Carson Starkey from Austin, Texas, who was an 18-year-old who went away to college in California, was inducted into a fraternity, had to go through that initiation process, which you probably all know includes consumption of massive amounts of alcohol. He was drinking a whole lot, as were the other pledges. He was not feeling well, and they put him, as his mother says, on a filthy, disgusting, dirty mattress with a trash can and left him. He was not vomiting. He was way beyond that. His body was already shutting down, and he died because his friends didn't care enough to get him help. These are the medical amnesty laws, Good Samaritan laws that you may have heard about that are coming really into a lot of prominence across the country because they help save lives. We do partner with them quite a bit as far as showing Carson's story. It's called Carson's Story, easy enough on YouTube. If you ever want something to fill 6 minutes with a high school group, show that. You won't hear a single sound. Not at all. It's very, very impactful story. So those are just two examples of what we've done. What can be done in my community, you say? I don't know. Hopefully you've come up with some solutions today, some ideas, some of the things that Nicole was saying are takeaways. What you do might be different in your rural area than in an urban area, certainly. And my joke is, I went from wearing suits every day for MAD to wearing blue jeans and tennis shoes and working in an ag barn because that's what we do. You go do whatever you need to do in that community to reach out to people. What can I do to stop impaired driving? These are rhetorical questions. I don't want you to raise your hand and tell me. I think it's something that I'm just challenging each of us at the end of the day to think about these things. You get that overload, as Nicole mentioned. That's why I've got a page full of quotes, What can I do to stop this? I've been doing this, as I said, over 20 years, but you keep looking for new ideas. You keep trying to find what the solution is, because I'm embarrassed as a Texan that we're still in that top number. Something has got to change. And I'm very hopeful that after today, after this full-day summit, we'll come away with some new ideas. We'll figure out some different things to stop impaired driving. So the unknown is education making a difference. That's what we do. Anecdotally, I'll tell you it is. We know when we go out there and talk to a group of people, all of us, any of us that are in education, prevention work, it's got to make a difference to someone. As Jenny Carter said, it's that one. If you reach that one, then it does work. Do we have hard numbers? Do we have hard data? I don't know. I've not been able to find it. If someone has it, I wish they'd share it with me and everyone else as well. But we've got to continue to do these kind of things, to educate people, whether it's with the tool, whether it's with a personal story, whether it's with a video, whether it's handing them PI&E, and if you're a TxDOT subgrantee, you know what that means. And if you don't, you're in trouble. But we've got to do something to continue to do this. So the challenge to me, personally, is to keep on keeping on. It's like that mountain right there. Dang, it's hard to climb that mountain. Some days, it is so hard to climb that mountain. I'm a Facebook junkie. I need a 12-step program. I'll just admit it in front of all of you, you know. And one day I was really discouraged. I don't even remember what had happened. It was about a year ago, and something had happened. I just spouted off on Facebook. Blah, 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 I don't even know why I do this anymore. And there's somebody in this room that posted back to me. It's one of my personal heroes that said, you do it because it's your life. It's what you're committed to. It's what you need to do. And basically, he said he'd kick my butt if I stopped doing it. But it's people like that that we need to push us along. Maybe some of you, you know, Jim Kaboviak, you've been in the trenches longer than I have. There's many of us. You need somebody to help you push that last step up the mountain sometimes. Does anybody agree with that? Lots of head shaking. Yes, yes. Cecil and Terry know that too. Educating in new ways, social media. If you're not doing social media, you're missing half the population or more. And like I said, I'm a Facebook junkie, and that is so last year. I mean, you know, the kids don't use that anymore. They use Snapchat, and I'm not going to get into Snapchat. It's a little beyond my comfort level. But there's ways that we have to be educating that are different than traditional handing them a piece of paper. That's why we have the simulator, because they want tactile, get on it, let's do this, it's fast, it's cool, and we wear these goggles, and that's what you need to do, is use new, innovative ideas, social media being just one of those. What's ahead that's positive? Carl McDonald from MAD talked about the advanced technology. That's very exciting. I was fortunate enough when I was national president of MAD to go with the Secretary of Transportation, Ray LaHood, to Harvard on a day that they were doing a live human subject testing. My job, my paid job as MAD national president, was to talk about this and, you know, I did that. Honestly, I had a little bit of doubt until I saw it in person. And watching that human subject testing going on, where this young woman was being dosed with alcohol, they were giving her crackers and cheese, they had her at intervals breathe into a breath testing machine, not an toxilizer, not an American-made product. It was something out of Europe that is so advanced. I don't even know the brand name because I think they covered it up so I wouldn't tell anybody about it. But doing that, they were taking her blood at intervals as well. They were testing the ambient air around her, and it was all very close to the same reading. I mean, I saw it, folks. It's there, but getting it, you know, into the cars, into the fleets first, and into our personal vehicles later. I certainly hope in my next years of life, however long that is allowed, that I'll see that come into vehicles. It's not an ignition interlock, by the way. This is passive. This is not something you're going to have to blow into. This will detect it either through the ambient air or through, what's the word, near infrared? Near infrared. It used to be tissue spectroscopy, and I think they said I couldn't even say that, so because I couldn't get it off my tongue. But those are some positive things. Negative, we already heard about this, but it's on our radar in our particular line of work at the Watch Your Back program is marijuana legalization, I'm sorry. Not legislation, but legalization, big difference. The problem is going to spread. It's coming. I mean, if we're not talking about it all the time, if you're not getting trained on it, you better. It's going to get here, and it's going to impact us in a negative way. Did anyone see the Time magazine article, October 13th, that has an article? I know Laura Lee did because she sent it out to us. But it talks about the development of a testing method for determining. That's the hard part for you law enforcement officers. How do you determine that? It's a good article. If you haven't read it, I'd certainly suggest you see that. So here's my bottom line. If we don't do it, who will? On those days when that mountain's huge and you're tired and you've worked 17 hours and you got to go to court the next day and your family is asking you when you're coming home and your kids are wondering where you are because you've been on the road for 3 or 4 days or whatever the case may be. If we don't do it, death and serious injuries are the risk. It's a war. We have to persevere in this war. And I hope that each of us will feel that way when we leave here. Gosh, you know, I was kind of blah when I came here, but man, I came to this great one-day summit that TxDOT put on, and now I'm going to continue in this battle. That's it for me. I put my contact information here, and I have 9 seconds left to tell you. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. As Sean and Jenny mentioned, they're subcontractors on subcontractors? Yeah, under our grant. We also have the Amber Minifig crash car exhibit that's available to be booked through us. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your dedication, as everyone else has. And I thank you very much for continuing in this battle. Thank you.